Welcome to the second part here on Sports Night Live, BetRacingnation. We are absolutely delighted to say that on the other line we have champion trainer Nicky Henderson. Good evening, Nicky.
Good evening to you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Good.
Just a quick roundup, really. Obviously, it's more like jumping weather out there today anyway, but
Certainly was.
just an update really on Sprinter Sacre and Simonsig. Obviously, we've not seen Sprinter Sacre for some while, and Simonsig likewise.
Well, you have actually. You've hit the nail on the head. I mean, suddenly interest suddenly seems to be mounting again, because I think Channel 4 are coming down to film them both tomorrow, and then somebody else is coming on Thursday. So everybody's starting to think about what's round the corner. Yeah, like yourselves. No, I mean, so far with both of them very good. I genuinely could not be happier. Obviously they both had issues last year which ruled them out. With Sprinter, I don't know. I mean, I think it was what happened at Kempton was certainly a one-off, and I'm not worried about. I think the heart thing, that he had this fibrillating heart that obviously affected him during the race that day, that turned itself round, and he was, that wasn't the problem. But I just wasn't happy with him. Sort of, we gave him a break and started to come back, and I hope we'd get him back for Cheltenham, and it just wasn't happening.
Is something like the Tingle Creek in December, is that a possibility at this?
Oh, very much so, yeah. I mean, like to think the programme... The trouble is, the programme is written in such a way that if you take the 2-mile chasers, there are only 5 races for them throughout the season. And therefore, you're just going to have 5 consecutive... I mean, say, if he does come back all right, which I hope he will, then, I mean, he and Sada Gruji are just... Sadly, you can't... they will just have to meet virtually every time. And
that must be quite frustrating. With Sprinter Sacre, I mean, obviously it was a conscious decision to be out ultra careful. And I mean, obviously the horse has run over hurdles at home, presumably, and everything's ticking all the boxes.
Yeah, well, I mean, he doesn't run over hurdles, no. But, I mean, we knew he just wasn't firing on the cylinders. He wasn't the sprinter that, we know so well. And I wasn't happy with him. And, you don't mess with horses like this. You don't mess with any of them, to be honest with you.
No, absolutely.
If you're not happy, you can't play. And I wasn't happy.
And in relation to Simonsig, the splint bone, is that all sorted?
Yeah, that was a completely different issue. The horse was healthy and well, but unfortunately, very early in his preparation, he was sore he developed it's a bony enlargement of the splint bone, which is an extension of the cannon bone, really. And it was just interfering with it. And he was sore, we got it right, but basically, just on X-rays, we were seeing things that you'd rather not see. And we were advised just to take it easy, and the best route of that was to just stop and start all over again. And again, he's had a good summer. Everything's touch wood. They won.
Would there be a run before the King George? Is the King George a plan? And if it was,
the King George, yeah, he'd obviously have to have a run before that. You couldn't run in the King George your first run since the Arkle 2 years ago. I mean, that would be totally unrealistic. He would start somewhere. I mean, I'm trying to say he'd go further. I think everything should... I know he won the Arkle over 2 miles. The previous year he'd won the Neptune over 2.5, and you can sort of also he'd actually started in the point-to-point field. So you'd think he will stay, but he's got a terrifying amount of speed. So, we might be ambitious thinking that he'll get 3 miles, but if he settles okay, then I think he will. I think the chances are we'll probably start over 2.5, and especially if all was going well with Sprinter Sacre, there is no need for him to come back to 2 because they'd only be headbutting each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And another one of the favourites is My Tent or Yours, who carried top weight in the Scottish Champion Hurdle and wore hood for the first time. Obviously headstrong. Must be putting your hair out a little bit because obviously the horse comes so close to winning a Champion Hurdle last year.
Yeah, he's just got to learn to settle down a bit, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, as AP says, he said it's amazing that a horse that pulls as hard as he does could even think about finishing the champion hurdle like he did. Yes, he went down by half a length, and it was a terrific race. I felt sorry for AP because he was on the wrong horse, because it was JP's horse that still won. We were second and he was on the wrong horse, but he said he just pulled too hard, and if we can get him to switch off, which we'll be trying to do. I mean, if you'd have seen him cantering this morning, a 10-year-old child could ride him. But in a race, the $6 million man wouldn't be able to hold him. So we've got decisions to make. Actually, JP's coming down to see the horses tomorrow morning, and we'll be discussing the programme. And it is possible we could go novice chasing with him.
I was going to say, the horse is actually built as if he will jump a
he'll jump fences, all right. It just depends at what speed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And until we try him and see what AP thinks, I don't think we'll be making any positive decisions. And I think that's probably the route we'll be looking at it. Okay. And we'll be seeing what everybody else is doing as well.
Yeah.
There's no doubt the jet ski will stay over hurdles. We'll see what everybody else is doing. And how strong the divisions look, because there's a lot of good races up until the champion hurdle, but you'd want to be able to think you can win the champion hurdle.
Absolutely. There's a couple of horses that are worth a mention as well. I mean, you've got so many great horses anyway, but Whisper and Beat That, is the plan to go chasing next year, or? Whisper,
definitely go chasing, I would say. Yeah. We were nearly going to go chasing with him last year, except that Di Walters has Oscar Whiskey as well. And as Oscar Whiskey was going novice chasing, and therefore if Whisper went novice chasing, they'd both be in the same category, because I think about 2.5 is their ideal optimum trip, although I'm now sure, we now know that Whisper stays 3. We know that Whisper will definitely go chasing.
Okay, and just a couple more. Triolo de Lane, one of my favourites, won the NSC. Form petered off a little bit towards the end of the season, and Mo Fleur.
Triolo de Lane is all to do with
ground,
wind, breathing.
Right. Okay.
And that's always just been an issue with him, and so we have got to make sure we get that. We have tinkered with his respiratory again during the summer, and if we've corrected that, then life's going to be difficult. I mean, the Grand National is still his race, to be fair, and if we can get back for that, I think the Hennessy is going to be more difficult. Ma Fileur, yeah, she's very, very interesting, isn't she?
Absolutely. Hennessy type, do you think?
She's 163. It's hard to win a Hennessy off a rating like that. I don't know. There are all sorts of races. I mean, I wouldn't even rule out the King George for her, because she's now in those ratings, and she has shot to the top. She's only 6, so she's a young mare, but she improved dramatically, and it's difficult to see which way we do go yet. But I mean, because there are going to be no easy pickings now. Yeah,
do you think the mark is it's after that win at Aintree is quite steep now, isn't it?
It's very steep. Yeah.
We've got a couple of questions, because we put this out on Twitter, a couple of questions from the audience. Joe Smith asked, what are the plans for West Wizard this season? Is he fit again?
He is fit. He's coming back on Monday. What happened last year was that at his first run at Kempton, I was mortified that he got beaten. But as it turned out, he got beaten by what turned out to be a very good horse. And then we had a problem with a knee, and he couldn't run again. And I think that was just immaturity. But the best thing that ever happened was, luckily, he did get beaten at Kempton, which leaves him a novice hurdler for this season. And he is due back into training next Monday, which is very exciting.
And last question is from Jamie Brownlow. Asks, any promising hurdlers for the coming season? Any ones to watch out for in the first couple of months?
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, anyone in particular?
There's a big new bunch. There's some exciting new horses from France. And I think the bumper horses were quite good last year, so they all join in. I mean, it's hard to tell at the moment, because they're all the new boys, and they haven't done any work yet. So I honestly don't know. There's a couple from France. One's called Top Notch, who I like, and I like... there's actually a new one arrived today who's a 3-year-old. He's a very big horse. Who's... I've even eliminated his name already because I've only seen him once, which was this morning.
It's amazing you can actually remember all your horses' names.
Well, don't worry, I can.
Yeah.
He's called... I'll get it for you in a moment.
Right.
The bumper horses last year, I think Altior was a good horse.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to him. And the bumper horses were pretty good at the back end. And I think Altior, he might just have been the best of them. So I'm sort of half hopeful he's going to be at the top of the novice hurdlers anyway. But mind you, so would West Wizard, because he's still a novice as well.
And what time of the year do you actually plan? I mean, obviously, without going into detail, I mean, do you sort of, is it in September you look, right, this horse is suited to this and this? Because plans change throughout the season, because you can't legislate for injuries or anything like that. But
well, I think it's the weather more than anything as to when we start. Peace and Go is the horse I was thinking of.
Right, OK.
Who's got some nice form in France. But again, he only arrived this morning, so I can't tell you much about him.
Right.
So... We will be sort of slightly weather dependent in whatever the weather's going to do in September, October will dictate when we can get going. It's been raining for the last 2 days and it's foul, but it doesn't really help us an awful lot because we're not trying to go, we're just in sort of steady build-up work. The ground isn't, we're on the all-weathers rather than on the grass. Come the middle of sort of September, beginning of October, that's when we need the ground to come our way so that we can get the fast work done and the schooling done, and then we can try and make a start.
OK. Well, thank you very much indeed for your time. Thank you very much indeed for giving us an insight into some of the horses that hopefully do very well next season. Thanks very much indeed, Nicky.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.